What's up, guys? It's been a while since we've done a Hearthstone video, but we're gonna do one today. And guess what? We're gonna play Priest again. So I would like to show you this new Priest deck that I haven't seen anyone playing a similar deck on the ladder. And I think it's actually a really good deck. I think it's just as consistent, if not more consistent, than Dragon Priest. I think it does well in a lot of matchups. Uh, and I think it's better than Control Priest, to be honest. But it does have poor matchups like Aggro Shaman. I think is pretty tough. Really depends on the draw and how good their draw is. Uh, Secret Paladin is probably 50-50. Um, but yeah, let's just go through the list real quick. So this is a minion-based priest list. I messed with a bunch of different options, but with the introduction of League of Explorers, it's really allowed priest players the versatility and kind of flexibility to build their decks in certain directions. Because one thing that's kind of problematic about playing on the ladder with priest is really good when you know what you're going to play against. If you know you're going to play against aggro, you can tweak the deck to counter aggro very well. Or if you're going to challenge control, you can tweak it in a way to make it uh, heavily favored in the control matchup. But for a long time, the problem is, um, playing on the ladder. There's such a diverse set of decks out there. It's hard to uh, keep good win rates against all the matchups. So with the introduction of a bunch of these LOE League of Explorers cards, we're able to kind of gear towards one matchup, but cover our bases for another. And I'll talk about it a little bit. A lot of these cards are the typical priest cards that we know and love, like Power Word Shield. There's no real reason to talk about this. We know this is a good card, good buff. Northshire Cleric. We know how important this card is. Zombie Chow. I'm running two Zombie Chows because I think in this current meta, board presence is important, and you need to use your mana efficiently every turn. So having one drops is important. Speaking of efficient mana usage, we have a pretty nice curve here. You can see we have, as you can see, at 4, 5, 6, and 7, the curve kind of comes up, which is a little rough, but ideally what you want, I think, is for the curve to be really high at 1, 2, 3, and lower at 3, 4, or 4, 5, 6, but then um, maybe tapering down. But this curve actually works really well. Um, so like we're talking about, we got zombie chow. So we got 4 1 drops with power word shield there. But cleric and zombie chow, good opening things to drop on turn 1 in most matchups. And now we have museum curator. This is a new card, and as you can see, its battle cry is discover a death rattle card, 2 for a 1/2. Now, historically, the worst turn for priest is turn 2, because usually you either just heal the zombie chow, heal the face, or do nothing, right? So this is a typical problem, especially we want to be a minion based deck, so we always want to play creatures at least for the first 4 or 5 turns. We want to play something on curve that will contest the board. Now, a 1/2 for 2 doesn't contest the board, but it does generate a card in your hand, which is card advantage, um, and it doesn't waste your mana. Okay, so there is something to use here. Like there's going to be situations where you just want to heal the zombie chow, and there's going to be other situations where you want to play the curator. Okay, and we'll go through that in the play tested games or whatnot. But this card is very versatile against aggressive decks. If you draw into them early, okay, you put a creature on the board that'll soak up at least 2 damage, and you have an option of hopefully discovering a death rattle card like Dark Cultist or Harvest Golem or Death Lord or Unstable Ghoul. Hopefully there are a bunch of like anti-aggro options that you can pull into. On the other hand, if you draw into this guy late, you only have to spend 2 mana to hopefully find something like an endgame legendary, like Sneed's Old Shredder, Sylvanas, Cairn Bloodhoof, piloted Sky Golem. There's a lot of, or whatever that golem is called. There are a lot of options, and this card adds a lot of versatility and unknown to the game. This is probably, if not the best priest card out of LOE, this is the second best priest card for sure. We're also running two Shrinkmeisters, and this is just because like I said, board presence is important. So you want something to play on this turn. I felt we needed 4 2 drops. Um, there are going to be times when you don't want to play him on turn 2 because you want to save him for your Cabal or something. But it doesn't matter because a lot of games you can play Zombie Chow turn 1. He plays a creature like a shielded mini bot. You can play Shrinkmeister and then pop the shield with the Zombie Chow, effectively giving you 4 mana worth of abilities on turn 2. What that means is instead of playing Zombie Chow and then healing Zombie Chow, you you played a Shrinkmeister, added a 3/2 body to the board, and had the effect of a heal on the Zombie Chow by preventing 2 damage, which is effectively the same thing, and it's just greater tempo. So there's a lot of ways to use this card. I like it. We're running 1 Shadow Word Death. If I felt like Secret Paladin was much more prevalent, I would probably play 2. Velen's Chosen, and this card is primarily the reason why we play 8 1 and 2 drops. And the reason is because most of the time we'll have an option of something to buff on turn 3 or turn 2 with the coin if we have the 1 drop. And that's very valuable. Velen's Chosen is a huge tempo play. Puts a lot of stats on the board for a very cheap price. Dark Cultist, this is a strong 3 drop, followed by Death Lord. In aggressive matchups, if you have Death Lord in opening hand, you probably keep it, especially if you have a 1 drop. But I would never keep a 3 mana card in my opening hand unless I had the coin or unless I already had a 1 drop or a 2 drop. So yeah, Death Lord, Dark Cultist, pretty self-explanatory. Elise Starseeker, this is another new card. Now, as you can see, half of the deck already. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, so that's 16, 17 cards in the deck are geared for the early game. Pretty much, with Curator being a versatile slot, right? But that's all these cards right here. Now, Elise Starseeker gives us versatility, kind of like an end game toolbox if the games go to fatigue. So if you don't know what she does, is she's 4 for a 3/5. You shuffle a map into your library. When you draw the map, you pay 2 mana to shuffle a monkey into your library, and you draw a card. When you get the monkey is 4 for a 6/6. And when you play the monkey, his battle cry is change all the cards in your hand and all the cards remaining in your deck into legendaries. That's pretty strong on average. Even though you don't know what legendaries you're going to get, on average, the value is probably going to be better than a lot of cards. Now, this comes into play when you're playing against control decks or fatigue decks. Like, let's say you have zombie, you get the great anti-aggro start. You got a Death Lord, you have a Zombie Chow, and you're playing against Warrior. Typically, you're not going to want to put the Death Lord on the board just because he can, ping it and then execute. And the chance of him pulling something great is something to worry about. So in some situations, you're going to hold back on playing cards. Cards will end up dead in hand, whether it be Death Lord or Zombie Chow or Northshire Cleric, whatever it may be. Cards will be dead in hand. This is where Elise's value comes in the long run, because by holding on to those cards in your hand, that gives you additional fodder late in the game to change into legendaries. Okay, so this is how you can make a deck that's geared towards being anti-aggression and give it the power to play against late game control decks. Okay, the other 4 drop we have is Piloted Shredder. It's not played by priests often because the heal would probably work better on another 4 drop like Chillwind Yeti or Mechanical Yeti, something with 5 health. Now, that's a great point, but I found that Pilot Shredder is just too good. It's just kind of too good to not play. For all the 4 drops, even better than Holy Champion to me. I think that Pilot Shredder just works a lot better. If I ran Circle of Healing, then I would have run Holy Champion instead. I did test it for a while, and I just preferred Shredder. It's a sticky minion, stays on the board. We're running 2 Holy Nova for a number of reasons, and one main reason is because we don't have Circle of Healing. I want another way to proc a lot of draws with Northshire Cleric. We're running Velen's Chosen, so it gets the value of spell power. And we run a lot of minions, so I prefer it over Lightbulb. We're running Lotheb because it's a good 5 drop. This is not necessary. This could be changed to anything. We're running Vol'jin. I feel like in a creature heavy deck, tempo is important, and You don't want to control the board for the first 3 or 4 turns and then have to lose your board to a Druid of the Claw or something like that, just because he played something crazy on turn 5 or turn 6. Vol'jin gives you that quick answer to deal with it and maintain tempo. Next, we have Entomb. This is a new card, and this card is amazing. So basically, what it does is you take an enemy minion on the board and you shuffle it into your deck. Death rattles do not proc. Death effects do not proc. So this card has great value. One problem with Priest is if your opposing player drops a Sylvanas, you're kind of fucked. If your opposing player drops a Tyrion, if you don't have Harrison, you're kind of fucked. If you don't have Shadow Word Death, you're fucked. If your opposing player plays Frost Nova into Doomsayer, unless you have Shadow Word Pain, you're fucked. Entomb gives you that versatile way to not be fucked. Okay? Get rid of Tyrion. Get rid of Dr. Boom. Get rid of old Murkai in the Paladin Murloc decks. Get rid of Doomsayer so you don't die to a board clear from Frostmage. Get rid of Grommash. Get rid of Ysera. Get rid of Sylvanas. Just a powerful card that gives you a better chance of winning the control game in the longer matchups, right? But it's still versatile enough to be good against the aggressive decks or semi-aggressive decks. You play versus Secret Paladin, you have a lot of early game creatures to kind of fight for board control, and then he drops a turn 6 Mysterious Challenger. That's fine. You use whatever existing creatures on board to proc his secrets, and then boom, entomb his Mysterious Challenger or whatever the biggest threat is on board. Okay, so a lot of ways that this card is good. For me, it's so good, I got to run 2. And here I am running 1 Light Bomb. And this, for me, this doesn't have to be in there. I always err on the side of caution. I could see people getting rid of maybe 2 or 3 of the 6 drops that I run here. But I run the Light Bomb just in case you lose the board. Okay, you need a big ace, some kind of trump card to kind of get yourself back against, a board of giants or against a freaking flooded mech board or whatnot. Okay, so I run 1 Light Bomb, 2 Cabal Shadow Priests with the synergy with Shrink Meisters, and just a great way to kind of cement a game, especially if you've controlled the board for so long. They kind of just end the game. And then a Justicar True Heart. The reason why I run True Heart is because my only taunts are Death Lords. So Hunters or other face decks, Aggro Shaman for one, they may get in for a lot of damage early, and usually they're just top decking, hoping that they can find lethal. True Heart means that makes it so that every turn that they miss that top deck, you greatly out heal their damage. So this is the deck in a nutshell. We're going to try some games with it right now.